Welcome to the Code for Couples podcast, focusing on topics for law enforcement officers and couples to keep you and your relationship connected, resilient, and code for. Now, your host, law enforcement expert Cindy Doyle, author of Hold the Line and My Wife.
Welcome back to Code for Couples. This is Cindy Doyle, your host, LEO wife, and licensed professional counselor. Today, I am excited to be interviewing Lynn McLean. She is one of my friends. I get to talking to my friends, my therapist friends, and I should have you on the podcast. And that is exactly what happened. We were in a mastermind group together, and I was like, Lynn, I need my people to hear what you're talking about because it's important. I know you're all thinking, what the heck is she going to talk about? Lynn is the owner of Houston Family Therapy Associates, and she's a licensed clinical social worker supervisor and a registered play therapy supervisor, which might not mean a whole lot to you, but what that means is that she knows her stuff around little kids. Even if you don't have little kids, maybe you can pass this information on to somebody that you know, or maybe we'll find out we can use this on our spouses. I'm not sure. She's nodding her head. Yes, stay tuned. Thank you so much, Lynn, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I'm really excited to be here with you. I love your podcast. I mean, I'm a fangirl a little bit.
I appreciate that. Thank you. The reason we started talking a little bit, you started talking about what you're wanting to do and what you're doing with kids and teaching parents, training parents on how to interact and engage with their kids. And one of the things that I thought about was how sometimes I get these emails or DMs from people. Why does my officer go on the job and is able to hold it all together, but when they come home, it's what the heck and heck. And we know that some of that is the downside of hypervigilance and also authoritarian spillover, because when an officer is on a scene, they got to get control. When we have a little one that's having a temper tantrum, many times I think what happens is they go into this conditioned authoritarian mindset and maybe get a little big. And I have to think of a 2 or a 3-year-old or any other age, really, there's small kids, there's some kind of impact for that. What kind of impact does that have to kind of come in with that authoritarian spillover on kids?
In a word, it's scary, even though it's a parent, a caregiver, somebody they trust. If somebody comes in with that kind of big energy that's strong enough to keep people safe in a very stressful situation in law enforcement, for example, bringing that into the smaller home environment with maybe physically smaller people, that kind of energy is big and it can be frightening. It can be abrupt. And more importantly, I think it just doesn't always get the parent to where they want to get with their kid. I don't think it works.
Tell me more about that. Why doesn't it work?
Every parent wants to do right by their child, period. And somebody in law enforcement, somebody in military, authoritarian equals safety, it equals order, it equals, I'm going to get everybody where they need to be safely. And of course, we would want that for our families, right? The most precious people in our lives. The intent is pure. What we tend to see in kids, actually of all ages, and I would argue taller people too, that authoritarian tends to shut people down. We tend to have, actually, the kids can often come from authoritarian parents. And that's what I mean when I say, okay, that's backfiring. That is not getting things done in the way that the parent wanted. I always go for the practical too. Okay, it's your style, that's your style. And I respect who you are as a human. If it's not working, let me help you tweak it some.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I kind of think that any kind of getting big in front of kids, it's like you're saying, demonstrated over the microphone, but powering over the other person. And then when we get puffy, also kind of have that fight or flight, flip your lid kind of a situation. And that, I would imagine, impacts their ability to hear what you're trying to say or like process through. It's kind of in their meltdown or fight or flight, trying to figure out how to self-soothe because they don't know all those things right now.
Right.
And then you're calm down. That doesn't really work. That doesn't work for taller humans, as you just said. That doesn't work for us taller humans. If I'm upset, the last thing I want to hear is calm down.
Exactly. Yeah. And I call us taller people because I don't know many air quote adults who are actually grown up. I don't tend to refer to taller people as grown-ups because often
none of us are grown up.
I have met few actual grown-ups in my life. And I think, the what you mentioned, that shutting down response, the fight or flight, it can feel very scary. It can often feel, again, the opposite, I think, of what most parents intend, shaming.
Yeah.
And if you stop and think, and you don't have to answer this question, but think about a time that you felt ashamed when somebody was trying to teach you a lesson. What do you remember? Do you remember that lesson? No. I don't. No. I remember the shame. I remember the embarrassment. I remember feeling dumb, those feelings of anger at the person making me feel that way. Right. Again, it just doesn't get a parent to where they want to go. And it's bad for their kids.
Great. Yeah, exactly. I was also thinking the long-term effect of this, that if somebody's always coming in, occasionally even coming in with that authoritarian aspect, when I'm upset, A, I'm not going to go to that parent. B, it may create some eggshells, and C, it impacts the relationship in the long term. And so as a parent, I have to think, okay, if I want this kid to come to me, then I'm going to have to develop some different foundation for them to come to me. I think of the importance of, I'm going to go with fathers and girls, talk about the importance of having that relationship and a good foundation. And since many first responders or many officers are male, I don't want to overgeneralize, of course there's all, but that relationship and that bond could take a toll or an impact in the long run when they're not wanting to come to that parent and talk about it. And then I walk it out even more and say, well, then the officer feels left out. And then he's like, why the heck am I left out all the time? So all of this really lays a foundation for years of connection with the kids, ways to influence them, right? Not control, influence. And it's important to set this up really early.
It really is. And I think most parents really want their kids to not just be blind rule followers in the way that we guarantee safety, for example, in law enforcement or the military. What we want instead, I'll speak for myself as a parent, is for my kids to be able to weigh what the options are, what's their gut telling them about this situation, and be able to say, oh, yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this, and I'm going to make a different decision. Now, that's something that would be outside the home is what I'm thinking. This isn't,
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to weigh the merits of your limit setting with me, Mom. It's more, okay, but we want to help build in them this idea that, okay, I'm going to think about what's happening here, and I'm not just going to automatically respond in the way that a person of authority is telling me to.
Perfect. I love that. So let's talk about, are we ready to move into language? How do we do this different? Sure. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about, because that's one of the things I got really excited about as you were talking about how to do this different in teaching parents how to have that different language instead of the authoritarian language. So what do we need to know?
Yeah. And I love what you said earlier about that parents really want to connect, and this authoritarian style doesn't really help them connect. And the way, for example, to connect as child-centered play therapists, which is my foundation, is what we teach in our parent class. So it's one of my favorite things. It's not like I have the keys to the kingdom and I'm not going to share them with anybody. I want everybody to know this, and especially parents. So what we teach is the warm, firm limit setting approach that we use in play therapy sessions. And the acronym is A.C.T. You start, and this is difficult. I'll say for myself, I say jump and you say how high sort of personality. And what we want to do is start with the A, which is acknowledge the feeling. We want to start with empathy. This is short, sweet. You're really mad at me. And then you go to C, communicate the limit. And video time is over. for today. And you heard my voice drop. If you're listening, you can't see my face, but I'm genuinely empathic. I get you're really mad at me. I understand that. And then I have a really kind of a voice of doom when I'm setting a limit and video time is over. And you hear it short, sweet. And then the T is you target an alternative that is acceptable to the parent.
Okay.
In this case, it may be there is only one acceptable alternative, and that is you can have video again on Saturday, whatever that looks like. You just say, yeah, I know you're really mad at me and video time is over. You'll get another shot of the iPad during your time on Saturday, period.
Wow, you make it sound so easy.
It is simple. It is not easy.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking of myself in that situation, and I'm like, okay. It might take some planning to think about how you're going to do it. It's a learned skill. Many times when I'm working with couples, this learning Mandarin, it's a totally different foreign language because most of us in Texas do not know Mandarin. We may know a little Spanish.
Correct.
But we don't know Mandarin. This is kind of that same thing of setting a limit. But yes, it's short and sweet and to the point. There's no kind of, hello, please, can you do that? I hear that in your voice. There's something very firm about it. Okay, the first one I want to recap. The first one is acknowledging the feeling.
Yeah.
We have to be somewhat familiar with feelings. Is it always mad? It could be sad many times.
Anything. It could be mad. It could be happy. You are having so much fun jumping on the trampoline.
My bed.
And not safe. Bed is not safe to jump on. You can go outside and jump on the trampoline.
I love it.
It's and this way of connecting the reflective responding, this empathy building skill is the first thing we teach in the class.
Okay.
And then we build on that over time, because you're right. I have yet to meet anybody who has been parented this way or automatically parents this way. We just don't. It is a different language. And one of the things that I think people worry about is when we start talking about feelings right off the bat, we're on that end of the parenting skills continuum where it's all about, oh, I get how you feel, and let me explain why you should do what I want and all. And then I think the other end of the continuum, by the way, is this ultra punitive, you're losing everything in your room for the rest of your life because you didn't
take it off the door.
Right. And there's no motivation for the kid to do anything. This A.C.T limit setting stance really helps fill what I see as a gap in parenting skills literature. Yeah, I get how you feel. You're not bad that you feel this way. It's just now we must put on the shoes. You must go to school. Here are a couple acceptable ways to do that. And I think that we say this in the class too. So I get how you feel doesn't mean I agree with you. It doesn't mean I have to make you happy. It doesn't mean I'm going to solve all your problems. It just means I understand how you feel. And it helps kids understand how they feel too, which is then the next huge step to what we want them to be able to do. What I was thinking about earlier is to delay gratification. I am feeling I really want to do this thing right now. And it is fill in the blank. Not the right time, not safe. My mom would kill me. I'm instead going to kick this in and do something different. And actually, and this is the other huge part of this technique, is it absolutely returns full responsibility to the kids for complying with one of the acceptable alternatives.
Okay. I love that. Yeah, because you're providing them and you're not saying, I'm guessing the alternatives, at least what I know about this, is that you limit the alternatives. It's A or B. Correct. Right? It's not choose any other. Yes, choose anything else you want to do, but it's you can do this or you can do this. And so you're providing them one or two, and that way the kids don't get overwhelmed too. Correct. I'm also thinking as a parent that Johnny's jumping on the bed, Mary's jumping on the bed.
Okay.
And I told Mary in my head, I told Mary not to do that. And I'm getting flooded or overwhelmed and I'm ramping myself up. Is there something a parent can do prior to going and talking to Mary about jumping on the bed? Is there something that they need to check in with?
Yeah, that's a great point, because When we lose control of ourselves, we really lose control of the situation. And we talk to parents about being a thermostat and not a thermometer. So the thermometer just reacts along with what's going on in the environment. It goes up or down depending on what's happening. In contrast, is always monitoring, always checking it out. Things heat up. Okay, we're going to kick in, cool it down a little bit. So it's responding and not reacting. Part of the response could be, oh, that just really pushed my button. That kid is on the last nerve. I'm going to just take a beat, breathe, walk in when I have myself a little more in control. And that's the way you're going to get results.
I think that is so incredibly important, because you just mentioned something that I say all the time when I speak, which is our officers and first responders are trained to react and not to respond, right? Something happens, boom, they go. Their fight or flight kicks in, they deal with the situation. That's what they're supposed to do. And I think that's incredibly important, that at home, and I know I've said this, audience, you know this, it's a matter of implementing it. I love the idea of a thermometer versus a thermostat. At home, I need to operate on the thermostat mode, and I need to be aware of when it kicked on, when the trigger happened, when they're on my last nerve. And then you said, take a couple of beats, right? Because you got to let that air blow. I'm thinking air conditioning right now because it's a little warm today.
Yes.
But, it kicks on and I got to let it cool off just a little bit before I'm going to go address the situation. And that analogy, that might be something that a visual image that I want to give to everybody, is that thermostat. After I've kind of kicked that on, cooled off, then I can kind of think about, all right, how am I going to go respond to that situation? And then apply this A.C.T model, which I'm just going to recap, is acknowledge the feeling, communicate the limit, and then target the alternative or alternatives.
Right. Absolutely.
Are there ways to screw up the targeting the alternative aspect? You should see Lynn's face. Her eyes got really big and she started shaking her head. She's, yep. So how does a parent screw that up?
I think it can feel really weird, to use a super technical clinical term, to return responsibility to your child for complying with a limit that you've set. And I haven't developed Jedi mind control. We have really very few other options than to return responsibility to them. Right. So I think we tend to get anxious. Probably we're mad. There's this background of, I have put Mary in timeout what feels more years than she's been alive for jumping on the bed. Why does this child continue to do this? All these tapes are playing. And so you get in there and you're mad, you're trying not to be mad. And then you're okay, but is she really going to do what I say? Maybe I should just go with the yelling because we know that works. No, I don't know. And I've seen parents just continue to add choices. I know it's so fun. Bed is not for jumping on. You can go jump on the trampoline, or you could put the couch cushions on the floor, or you could, people just start to get really worried about it, and they start just adding choices. They don't want their kid to be unhappy. Honestly, they just don't. It feels crap to have your kid struggle, and to see that they're sad or to see that they're mad at you doesn't feel good. And in the face of that, genuinely empathizing and joining another person in that emotion, that's uncomfortable. It can feel hard. And those minutes of waiting or seconds of waiting for them to comply can feel hours. That's one way. Another way is, you referred to this earlier, not being prepared. When I tell parents to start doing this, I say, do not pull the trigger on this right away. Maybe sit down, have a date, come up with what you want your limits to be, and then what would be acceptable alternatives to you. You have them in the back of your mind and you're ready to pull them out. She's never going to want to brush her teeth before bed. We always want her to brush her teeth for her hygienic safety. We're going to give her alternatives that are okay with us. Do you want to use the pink toothbrush or the blue one? Do you want to brush your teeth in my bathroom or your bathroom? In the heat of the moment, my brain just tends to seize up. It's the wheel quit turning. And if you're prepared, you're more ready to pull it out and just be confident, even if you don't feel confident.
Part of what you're saying too is brainstorm on this. Have a date, brainstorm, think about those common struggles. In relationships, many times we talk about gridlocked issues, things that are locked. You're talking about maybe problems that come up on a regular basis, a struggle brushing your teeth or getting ready for school or taking a bath. That was always mine. I did not want to take a bath. Thinking about what are the options of taking the bath. You can have bubbles or you can have a bath bomb. I don't know, but something that making it where it's not a choice to have a bath, but here's your choices.
100%.
And it sounds like it gives the kids some kind of control as well. And that when you said the way parents could screw it up is being a little, it's anxious. There's some anxiety of, are they going to go for it? What happens when they don't? What happens when a kid's, I don't know those options. They won't say that. They'll just be, no.
They do.
What happens
None
then?
of those choices. I don't want any of those. I've heard everything. One of the ways you can just to wear them down, you just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. If I've had a kid in the play therapy room, they don't want to leave. Why would they want to leave? And take a child's physical agency away from them. I want them to leave under their own power. I just say, I know it's fun and you don't want to stop playing and we're out of time for today. Do you want to park that car here or on the shelf? And I'm giving big nonverbal cues as well. That's another thing is I've stood up. I'm waiting for the kid. A parent, for example, in the bath situation could be standing up, looking at the kid expectantly. Yeah, time to turn off that iPad. It's time for bath. Do you want to take your bath in 3 minutes or 5 minutes? And you're standing there and you're waiting. And in my playroom example, I just keep saying the same flipping thing over and over again. As I move closer and closer to the door, I keep the same cadence. I say it the same patience. It's fine. It's fine. I have time before my next client. Here are your options until I've got the door open. And I can't tell you how many kids have just looked at me. This lady is not going to quit with this. I'm just going to wait. So that's one element that you can absolutely use. Yeah, I know. You're still telling me. Continue acknowledging that feeling. You don't want to take your bath. And this is where it really helps for you to be super clear on your limits. If you know that this baby has got to get in the bath so they can get to bed, so that they can go to school tomorrow, that strengthens your spine, right? And they will hear that in your limit. And it absolutely is time for your bath.
I think also, like, as I'm watching you and as you're doing it, and when you said it strengthens your spine and you straightened up a little, is that presence? It's not puffy, right? But it's that firm. In a way, if the voice stays calm, that authoritarian aspect, when I'm thinking about the authoritarian aspect for law enforcement, in a way, not getting big, but firm, right? I'm firm in what needs to happen. No, ma'am, you are not going past this barrier. That's the same language of, I understand you don't want to take a bath, 3 minutes or 5 minutes. That's your choice right here, or wherever you're going, right? And so it's just this writing it out, being firm. I love that you're wear them down, but that mindset and almost a mindset of I will prevail.
Yeah.
It's really that instead of having a mindset of, oh my God, this kid driving me nuts, or how am I going to get control? It's more of a mindset of, I will prevail. I just need to write this out. And calming our minds down in those situations really helps for us to stay firm. They can be doing whatever they do as long as you are centered in what you know to be your truth, which is what I have control over this.
Yeah. And when you are setting your limits with intention, you are able to convey them in the tone that we illustrate to parents. You're just saying it, the sky is blue. It is what it is. The wall is just not for painting on. It's time for your bath. The bed is not for jumping on. It is just what it is. And you can absolutely tell them and they understand that you mean it. And you don't have any second guessing in the way that I described the alternatives. Well, you could do that, or you could do that. If you're not super secure in your limit, or you're thinking, crap, why did I set this limit? I don't care if they splash water on the floor. I don't care. Then they're going to hear it in you and they're not going to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do in that moment of crap? This was a dumb limit. You just go with it, right? You just roll with it.
You can, or Super important. Pro tip, don't just let it drift off and let them sort of do it. Even when you said, don't do it, you say, I know I just told you not to splash the water on the floor. And that's really a bad example. But I had one mom tell me it was such a relief to set down that limit because she was stressed about making them comply. And then she realized a little water on the floor during bath time is really not the biggest of my problems. That's the way it came to mind. But you just say, I know I said don't do that, and I changed my mind. You want them to know that you are the authority. That's where the authoritarian does come in, the confidence in the buck will stop here. And you just say, I changed my mind. A little water is going to be okay. You're not in trouble for that.
I love that. And it gives us if we need to change our mind, we can. I cannot think of, I know I set a limit one time with my nephew and I thought, this is a long time ago, but that was dumb. Why do that? And then I knew I had to enforce it. I was like, well, I'll roll with it this time. It's nice to know that it's okay. It's more about trying. It's more about, let's try this out. Let's try to enact it. And it's not going to be perfect all the time. And that's okay.
100%. We're all learning. And one of the things that we talk about is that there are rules of thumb in the class. And I always roll my eyes because they're corny. The thermostat versus the thermometer is one of them. And one of them is wordy, but it says, what's most important may not be what you do, but what you do after what you did, which means exactly what you said. We are sure to make mistakes, and how we recover from them and how we model that recovery to our children is the power. I'll never forget catching myself yelling at my kids when they were little. And I caught it and said, if you yelled at me the way that I am yelling at you, you would get in much trouble. And I apologize. I'm not going to tell you I'm never going to yell at you again. Spoiler alert, I did yell at them again. And I had that moment of realization, this is absolutely unacceptable. And we know modeling is the most powerful form of teaching. And over again, you will get the chance for do-overs. And my experience is that children are far more forgiving of us than we are of ourselves. And you say, geez, buddy, I'm sorry. No, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that to you. I apologize. And I think that if we can genuinely forgive ourselves, it's an opportunity to know yourself better the next time. You said you feel that anger building and you say, oh, yeah, that didn't go well the last time. I'm going to take an extra minute for an extra deep breath.
Really calm down. Yeah, good. I love that. A.C.T model. I love the idea of the thermostat and the thermometer, their voice, keeping that, making sure to practice, even maybe practicing the sky is blue voice, whatever that voice looks like to you. It doesn't have to be the sky's blue, honey, right? It's you should see her face. No, it needs to be just practicing that voice, practicing that idea of those limits, maybe brainstorming as a part of that with your partner or co-parent, and figuring out how to have those things in your pocket, your hip pocket, for those really common ones, and practice. I do think it would be funny to practice on your spouse or somebody.
It works so well
along the way.
It works so well. We had a dad come back after just learning the reflective responding, and he said, this really works at work. And I said, tell me your story. And he said, we were sitting around the table and there's a guy that always interrupts. I looked at him and said, you just sound so frustrated. And he said, the guy looked at him and said, yes, I am. And we could go on with our meeting.
Oh, wow. There you go.
It's awesome.
I do think that reflective responding just kind of takes the air out of things sometimes. To feel acknowledged. Practice that with your spouse. I actually did that. I'm a little off track, guys, but I had a guy who came in and he was talking about his spouse. And I said, don't you do de-escalating at work? Don't you know de-escalating aspects? He's, yes. Why aren't you implementing some of that at home? He's, oh, crap. And then the next night I get this email, you're a genius. And I'm not really, but thank you. Lynn, throughout this whole podcast, you've been talking about a course. You've alluded to something. You're in the course. What's the course? Is that available for other people? Do they have to fly to Houston? What is that?
I wish they would, but they don't have to. No,
Okay.
and one of the silver linings of the pandemic was that we took the course virtual, and it has been so fun. Call it very cleverly our parent class. It is based on a curriculum that was written by the founders, the pioneers of child-centered play therapy. And it really, as I said before, teaches parents those basic, wonderful skills about how to connect with your kids and how to set these limits. And it's a 10-week class. And right now we're in almost the middle of our current course, but we want to run them year round. And yeah, so anybody actually from anywhere could hop in, because it's not therapy. Sometimes people don't need therapy. They just need some extra tools. And that's what it is. It's education. And I can't tell you the look of relief that I see on parents' faces when we go around. It's on the screen now, but when they talk about, and so my kid tantrums probably 3 or 4 times a day and will not wear a sock. And you just see other parents go, oh man, it's not just my house. It's not just my parenting. It's very community building as well.
Very cool. So if somebody's interested, and my audience is interested in the course or interested in getting a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Super simple. If they can just remember learntoparent.net, it will take them directly to the parent class page. And you can send us an email, you can call, we can even give you a free brief phone consultation if you want to know if this is the right thing for you. Super easy to sign up. If you sign up and pay in advance, you get a little extra bonus.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of the most fun things we do. But really it shifts our parenting paradigm from this place of, you talked about seeing Mary jump on the bed, and I've told her this a million times and I've punished her and she still doesn't get it. Well, 9 times out of 10, they can't get it because they're little. And honestly, I think we know our brains are not really ready to start to get these things until we're in, I hate to say, our 20s. So asking Mary, who's 5, to stop jumping on the bed is really tricky. And this ACT, if you use it every single time in a tone of, I'm not mad, I'm serious, it will get the message across over and over again. Okay, every time I jump on the bed, they're going to say, don't do that. Here's what I can do instead. That's what teaches the lesson.
Yes. I love how you're empowering parents with these skills. And my thought is, my gosh, if we're just spending 30 minutes on this one skill, having weeks of training, I'm going to have all kinds of tools in my toolbox. If you're interested in Lynn's class or the class with Houston Family Therapy Associates, it is learntoparent.net. And you can go to her website or contact Lynn directly. And I will put all the links in the show notes, as well as on my social media if you want to connect that. Lynn, thank you so much. This was so helpful and so much fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I do. It's one of my favorite things to talk about.
I hope everybody will use that ACT, whether I know that you can pass that skill on, or hey, just do, what was it? Reflective responding. That is, I need to write that down. Reflective responding at work, and just blow everybody's mind.
Love it.
So until next time, guys, y'all keep it code 4. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. For more information about the podcast or Cindy, check out code4couples.com. All intellectual property rights owned by CRLD2 Ventures, LLC, are protected by the firm of 9mm, 45 ACP, 5.56mm, and 12 gauge.